the unique training methods by Dimitri Bivol.
Banded uppercuts attached to the kettlebell. Now this is really impressive to do. Is having to relax through the shoulders and then tense at the end. And you can see how this relates to Bivol's punching. It all kind of relaxes from the shoulders and then pops at the very end. So you can see that how this exercise actually translates into his boxing style. So let's give this exercise a go. Banded uppercuts. That is an underrated exercise. I probably can't demonstrate that as well as I should. You can see that Bivol's feet are quite planted and it's a lot going through rotation. What the bands and the kettlebell is doing is creating that emphasis of coming from your shoulders and rotating through the shots, but then also having that snap at the end. You can't be tense going through this, else it'll create too much movement in the kettlebell, as you can see. So with this, you're having to literally tense up and then snap at the end. Tense, 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 and have that rhythm. So you're keeping that kettlebell. As soon as you lose that rhythm, that's when the kettlebell starts moving out of control. So to be able to get more rhythm in your shots, get that pop from your shoulders and have that snap at the end range, this is a really good exercise. If you're looking to just primarily focus on uppercut strength, what would be good is to use a banded uppercut where you're loading up through the hips in a band, then just focusing on driving through the hips all the way through, and then that snap at the end range of the punch. If you're looking to actually condition and looking for strength endurance uppercuts, doing like a 30-second burst within like some sort of circuit-based activity would be good. So this is something that's part of our Red Zone Circuits plan, where we're just literally saying to fast uppercuts for 30 seconds. So this is a technique that's being used across many different champions, including now Inoue. A band, then just focus. Next one, this looks brutal, is in a press up position with a kettlebell, doing some sort of windmill work there, is having to create a lot of stability in this hand that's rooted to the floor, whilst also a lot of posterior shoulder work going there, and it's working all the range of motion where it's really targeting the rotator cuff. Talking about the upper limb here, it's also brutal on the core. He's staying really stable during this exercise. As soon as he's going out and wide and having to create some sort of strength through the posterior shoulder, the core is having to work at that same time. So this is targeting posterior shoulder strength and stability, whilst also targeting core strength and stability as well. Fantastic exercise. Let's give it a go. Next one, myself up for this one. Oh, that's difficult. I'm really feeling it on this posterior shoulder here. I'm having to really engage the posterior shoulder muscles, my lats, to pull that kettlebell around. I'm also feeling it in this posterior shoulder here to create that stability, and also in my core. Bivol, a lot stronger than me, is able to do it with his feet about hip width apart. I've had to take my feet a little bit wider to create a little bit more stability. I'm pushing it overhead, keeping this scapula engaged, bracing my core, belly button tucked in, and I'm pulling it around all the way to there, and then pushing it back, keeping contact with the kettlebell on the floor. And when I'm here, this is where I feel it the most. When I'm there, pulling it back. I'm utilizing my lats to be able to pull it back. Doing myself up for this one. If you're struggling with this exercise, again, you can lessen the weight. I'm doing it with 8 kilo kettlebell there. I'm finding it quite difficult. What you don't want to do is sacrifice the weight load too much. A simple exercise to do is kettlebell drags, which is fantastic for posterior shoulder strength and stability, core strength. It also gets your obliques involved as well. So we're starting in a press up position, feet just wider than hip width apart, kettlebell to the side. We drop one hand, allowing a little bit of rotation through the upper back, pulling the kettlebell along the floor, dragging it across, utilizing the lats and the obliques here to drag that kettlebell across. Again, we're trying to keep all the body stable as we're performing this action, just allowing that little bit of rotation there to engage the lats and the obliques. This exercise is, take a look at this one, where he's doing some sort of like half squat into a high pull into a press in front. Now this exercise is working all the posterior shoulder, and then when he's pressing out, he needs a lot of posterior shoulder work because he needs to decelerate it at the end, and also serratus anterior is working there. So let's give it a go. Take a look at this one, where he's So we're going to start off in a little bit of half squat. We're pulling up, shrugging up the shoulders, but then we have to create some stability to then press from. So you almost need to pull in using the shoulders, create that stability. A lot of forearm strength that's needed here. And then you're pressing out, keeping nice and upright. Again, like I mentioned, it's all about that kind of relaxation and then that snap at the end range of the punch, which Bivol is an expert in doing. I'm using an 8 kilo kettlebell here. It's very difficult to create that stability through the shoulders, but also the wrist as well. So you're there, you're punching it out, keeping stable through the forearms, then going through and punching it out. If you're struggling with the end range, keeping that kettlebell straight due to lack of strength through the wrist, you can go for a lighter kettlebell. But with this, not be challenging that posterior shoulder here and the posterior shoulder on the pressing as well. So a simple thing to do is to just use a dumbbell instead, and then that's going to be a lot more stable around the wrist. We're looking at like a prone hand elevated hold. You're starting in a T position, which is going to be really difficult and really straining at the posterior shoulder muscles here. And then it goes into an I position, a prone elevated hold, which will be a little bit easier for people to do, targeting the traps and the core. Going into that Y position shows fantastic strength and robustness of the shoulders, but it's quite difficult to do. So let's take a look at how you can do this and also some easy alternatives so you can get the same adaptations as Bivol's targeting here. We're looking at getting himself up. I've got no chance. Absolutely no chance. Try it with my feet a little bit wider. Oh, that's difficult. It's relying on a lot of like posterior shoulder strength and stability, which not a lot of boxers have. So fair play to Bivol for being able to do this. I'm creating myself a little bit more stability through my core by just taking my feet a little bit wider. But then that is still quite difficult. So if you just kind of bring it in and have that same action there, it's challenging for the core and I can really feel my posterior shoulder. If you do it on each, a 20-second repetition. If you're struggling with next one, is like a core strength exercise, is maximizing that core tension by doing a standing sit-up, like using the bands. And his coach here, giving him a little bit of a dig to the stomach, very brave man, but he's also doing it himself. He's demonstrating it with Bivol, punching him to the stomach. So with this, it's probably just that little dig to the stomach is just to make sure that I took it from Bivol.
Bivol punched him?
Bivol punched him.
Why did Bivol punch him? Didn't it be the exercise for Bivol?
Yeah, but then he was saying, oh yeah, I can do it. So he was like practicing what he could preach.
Okay, let's go.
So you can do this with longer holds to create that increase in time under tension rather than having somebody hit you. Or you can do a lane variation where you can do a supine Swiss ball squeeze, which is going to be helping you increase that maximum tension throughout the core. And also you can do banded GHR sit-up holds where you're going to be on the GHR, or you can do this on the side of the ring and then literally have a partner pull the band, you having to work against the band to create that resistance. Short rep range